Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session where we are speaking to the two co-founders of eGMAT. Most of you have seen either of them through content of eGMAT, giving great GMAT prep tips, or otherwise speaking to successful candidates about their GMAT journeys and their experience in the MBA. Both Rajat and Payal have, of course, been very instrumental for me in terms of my GMAT journey and where I am today pursuing an MBA at Columbia Business School. So, very excited to have both of you here. Welcome, Rajat and Payal.
Uh,
Thank you, Ritika.
yeah,
It's
thank you,
really
Ritika.
wonderful being here. Yeah.
Yes, I would say first of all, thank you for kind of pushing us to do this. 2 weeks back when you said we should do a session on the journey of eGMAT, it was a very interesting idea. A couple of our students have said this before, but this kind of fell the right time with Payal being available. So thank you for putting in the efforts to hosting this session. I know you're traveling to LA and you're traveling back and forth, so thank you for taking the time out. And yeah.
No, absolutely. I think for me, what's very exciting about the session today is, we've always heard you speaking to students about the GMAT and MBA journeys. But for me, when I experienced the eGMAT way of preparing for the GMAT, and once I also got through, my desired B school, I took a step back and I thought, wow, you've created this amazing business. I've of course had the fortune of speaking to some of your mentors and other people within the company, and I thought you've created this really amazing business. You're based in the US. You have part of your team based in India, and so I'm really excited to understand how you kind of created this amazing business, Rajat. So I'll dive straight in, and my first question to you is, so what really led you to pursue an MBA, and that too in entrepreneurship?
Payal, you want to take that on or?
Well, you were the one who decided to do an MBA, but yes, Rajat always wanted to do something in education, right? So and Rajat, it's your MBA. I wasn't the one who did your
Yes. So, so,
MBA.
so, so I think so. Let's kind of talk about my pre-MBA life. I was a researcher. I built a bunch of cool things as a researcher, and but one of the biggest problems was when you're a researcher, you get all this money to build cool things. You never get to sell them. You never get to really get customer feedback on whether those things work. And being a researcher kind of made me recognize that, hey, I have this power to build things, but I don't have this power to productize them, and I wanted to do that. So hence the MBA. Now, why MBA and entrepreneurship? I think growing up, I had this thing where I wanted to do something of my own, and I've actually never said this, and I'm going to say this on camera. I have this uncle who actually started from scratch, and he literally is a successful mattress business today, but he literally started from scratch, and then he started selling stuff on a radar to go from there to there. It's like, okay, if he can do it, I should be able to do that too. And so I wanted to be an entrepreneur, yet I wanted to do well in education, so I'd done the education piece, so and then said, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to learn business the formal way, and hence the MBA in entrepreneurship. So the other piece was our parents are teachers. So Pal's mom's a teacher, my dad's a teacher. So I think even though it's one of those things where you say you're never going to do something like that. So I told myself I'm never going to be a teacher, but I think that DNA and that those learnings
Mm-hmm.
always stay with us. So I think there was that passion for education. There was a need that we saw that education is way, in terms of where the world's progressing, education hasn't progressed that much. So wanted to do the business, wanted to do something in education, and Babson for me, actually the entrepreneurship program took that fear of being an entrepreneur away. I mean, I always tell people, if you want to be an entrepreneur and if you have no money, go to Babson. It'll teach you how to start a business, and it'll push you to start a business. That's what Babson is.
That is pretty amazing. I think Rajat, one of the things you often hear as you're looking at B school is if you say to people you want to be an entrepreneur, often people will tell you, well, then you don't really need an MBA, right? MBA is for people to go into the more conventional jobs like banking, consulting, so what are your thoughts on that kind of, having been somebody who was not an entrepreneur, then doing an MBA and then creating such a successful business?
So I think it depends on the kind of business that you're going to go into. So, for example, if you wanted to build a business where you saw a business that's working really well over here in the US and you want to replicate that in India, maybe you don't need an MBA. Okay. But then if you want to build, in my opinion, a product business where you had to think about, okay, which customer segment am I going to focus on? How am I going to position the product? How am I going to price those things overall? And so what an MBA does in many ways is it gives you a framework to think about those things. And it's really important to think about those things. Why? Because when you're starting a business, you will always have temptations, because if you're doing X, there's someone else will be doing Y, and say maybe I should do Y too. And then how do you then stay true to your vision, true to the customer segment that you want to focus on? That's kind of where that rigor is what an MBA puts in. I mean, if you think about the case studies that we do, case studies, what are case studies? They're stories yet, but I think they're stories of choices. I mean, you did some case studies in year one, and your professor asked you, what should you do? What's the path forward? And there are multiple paths forwards. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. Identifying the good versus bad are those decisions that you as an entrepreneur needs to make. And I think that's where those case studies that you go through an MBA, go through in the process of doing an MBA are very, very valuable when you're making those decisions. As
And
an
I think there's
entrepreneur.
nothing at stake at that point in time when you're making those decisions, but those decisions really help you craft or help you when you have to make those real life decisions when you do your own business. So I think from that standpoint, MBA has a very, very key part. Now, I didn't do an MBA, but I think when both of us were in that experience together, we used to discuss a lot of case studies. I mean, Rajat and I have discussed things right from our dating period to how to craft his application essays to when he got into his MBA. I mean, half of the case studies we used to do together. So yeah, so that was a very interesting. So I got MBA by proxy, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Mm.
Because eGMAT, of course, helps many people around the world, have a successful GMAT and MBA journey. I would love to hear a little bit about your GMAT preparation and B school experience.
That's interesting. Yes. I'd say my GMAT preparation was a struggle. I'd be, and for a bunch of reasons. The first thing is, when I prepared for the GMAT, I was in Germany, and just to really tell you a bit about being in Germany, you kind of, it breaks how you speak English. So essentially, the way a lot of Germans, I wasn't in Frankfurt or Berlin where people speak English fluently, but I was in Bochum, which is northwestern side of Germany, and so for me, and I'd lived there for 4 years. For me, the English was a literal translation of German. So, for example, if you were to go and play badminton, you say "Ich mache Sport heute." So my English would be "I make sport today," instead of saying "I would play badminton today." "Ich mache" means I make, Sport heute, sport today. So that's how I would speak English. So my English was all messed up. Of course, Quant wasn't as big an issue, being an engineer, but English was all messed up. So struggled a lot. And remember, this is 2002. There's no Manhattan. Manhattan didn't exist. So there was the only two resources that I had access to were two books from Kaplan, one from Kaplan and one from Princeton. I actually even have those books today that I used, and those books were not rigorous at all. I would just say, and so for me, and the official guide, of course, that was the OG10, which was that was the ETS era OG, and so I started. I went through those books 4 times, and first attempt got a 700 Q49 V36 or so, and it was okay. Actually, Payal was very happy with that, and I was disappointed with that score. But then I kind of recognized, throughout my life, I've not paid for my education. So, and the second thing is that, I knew that, even in 2002, I knew high GMAT score means admits and scholarships. And And so I prepared again, and so again went through the OG the fifth time, reasoned out. There were no GMAT Club and Beat the GMAT either, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I mean, GMAT Club was in its nascent state. Beat the GMAT actually started 4 or 5 years later, and so the next time I was able to get to a 760, but it was a struggle, is what I would say.
That's quite amazing, because I guess in some ways you were also the customer and you
Mm-hmm.
experienced the pain points, which probably may have also led you to come up with this idea. But I'm not going to make conjectures. I would love to hear from you, both Rajat and Payal. How did the idea of eGMAT really come about? And what was the opportunity cost of pursuing this venture? Because when you complete an MBA, you have very attractive options ahead of you. So if you can share some of that.
Right. So, I can get a start on this one. So I started eGMAT. So I quit my job. So
It
from
wasn't
the
me, just to
standpoint,
really tell you.
yeah.
She was the one with the
Yeah.
opportunity cost.
Yeah, so I was so if the first 2 years was complete investment from our side, wherein we didn't see a single penny come in. We were experimenting with the products, creating products, scrapping products. A lot of frustrating moments for sure, especially because neither of us was from education background. Neither of us basically knew technology. So again, there was a lot of experimentation done, but good fun. So the first 2 years, from the standpoint of opportunity cost, yes, pay for 2 years. From my side, I was on a path to in so I was into program management, in a space system at Honeywell Space Systems. So I was on a good trajectory there. So that's so career progression, plus. Money. So at the time when we launched, we were going through a very bad economic downturn. So we lost all our
Yeah, I don't know,
savings.
Ritika,
So
if you were aware,
yeah,
2008, the worst economic downturn post the Great Depression. It was called the Great Recession, right? The Great Depression was in World War II, Great Recession 2008. So that was the time when Payal left her job, actually,
yes,
to
yeah,
invest on
and
eGMAT.
right. So yes, had it not worked, we would have possibly had to move back to India with absolutely no savings after 10 years of work experience. So that was the opportunity cost, plus a lot of personal hardships that goes without saying. That's there with any business, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, I talk about the idea. Where did the idea? I think you saw the
Mhm.
opportunity cost. I'll talk about the piece where the idea came from. So I mean, when it came to starting our own venture, we always wanted to do something in education. In fact, if you look at my Babson application, what I wanted to do was to really have a system like eGMAT for tier 2 engineering colleges, which uplifted. So if you think about how our engineering the way engineering works in India is, you go through a competitive exam and then you go to engineering colleges. Now, when you graduate out of 12th, you have this one group which is a cream that actually, let's say, is at this level, and then you have this other group which is probably slightly below the cream. The guys who are cream, they get into tier 1 schools, the IITs, the BITSAs, and the RECs. These guys go to tier 2. The problem is the quality of professors in tier 2 colleges is so abysmal that this gap, as they graduate, increases like this. And when they graduate, tier 1 guys are way smarter than tier 2 guys. So I wanted to create an education company that bridges that gap. Now, being in the US, and having worked in B2B, it's like, man, I can't do that because, there's no clear, and that's kind of, you talked about what's the value of an MBA. I wanted to do that. We basically, both of us being good engineers, had the know-how to do it as well. But from a customer standpoint, there was no clear need to buy the product while they were in engineering school. So it's like, okay, we want to do something in education. What's the next thing that we know, that we are aware of? That was the GMAT. Where's the need? There's a compelling need for non-natives and on the verbal side of things. and
Because you
and
had
that's
already
kind of where
experienced that. Yeah.
we
Yeah.
had experienced it
Mm.
ourselves. So
Mm.
so that's kind of how the idea of eGMAT came about.
Amazing, amazing. That's, I think, all the best stories you hear about businesses often emanate from having seen some of the challenges yourself, and then trying to solve it, right? So, uh, that's that's a great story. What were some of the challenges that you faced in building eGMAT? If you could share that.
I think Payal alluded to a couple of them. I think
Mhm.
I'm going to just um, we had what I call as the classic trilogy of challenges. We didn't know the content. I mean, we'd taken the test, we had done well, but we weren't GMAT instructors by any means. And then one of the things that you're going to notice with the challenges is each one of them actually ends up being an
Yeah.
advantage. So we didn't know the content, so we had to learn the content to be able to teach. I mean, it's taking the exam is one thing, but being able to teach it to someone else is a completely different challenge. Which is where when we hire people today, we don't care about your GMAT score. Frankly, there have been people where I've been rejected. Instructors who have a 760 and we've rejected them, or Payal has rejected them, and with 680 we've hired them just because they know how to teach, and the clarity is there. We didn't know technology. I mean, we weren't coders, frankly. So I both of us have engineering, but we were not, strictly coders or so. And we had no money. I mean, this was again, remember 2008, 2009 time period. We actually, all the money that we had earned during that time, we invested in a house which was under. So we practically had $1,000 in our bank account, and we had a 1-year-old daughter, or about a 6-month-old daughter when Payal quit her job.
Yeah.
So those were the challenges that we faced. But at the same time, and you talk about the opportunity cost for this, it was very clear to us if we didn't do it now. I was turning 30, Payal was 28. It's like we won't ever do it because this was the right time. So it was
Yeah.
now, never for us. And yeah, so that was it.
I think we were both very clear about what it is that we wanted to do. There was never a second thought about, given the economic condition, is this the right time to do it? No, we never even questioned it. It was just, we have to do it. I
Yeah, it
think
just
that's
felt
where
the right.
yeah,
It's just from your
yeah,
heart, it felt, it's just the
yeah.
right thing to do.
I
And
think people who procrastinate, my suggestion to them would be, you have to believe in your vision, and you have to have that faith in yourself. And that's when the procrastination will go out the door. It's because procrastination really kills, frankly. Yeah.
Amazing. So, clearly, Rajat, what you said is you initially were trying to solve this problem in the education space, which was relating to engineering colleges in India. But then you realized that, for whatever reason, instead of that, you would focus on the GMAT. So, what was the vision with which you started eGMAT, and how has that changed along the way?
I think Payal should answer that because she's the one who actually
So,
executes on that vision. And even when we set the vision, but she more often than not
yeah.
also sets the vision. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So the vision was really to create a course that for a diligent student will be better than the classroom courses. So when we started eGMAT, the only way of doing test prep was go into a classroom and then learn the content, learn the content, and then practice, practice, practice. Hopefully, if everything lines up well, you may be successful. But more often than not, that was not the case for diligent students. There were people who were smart, who had those innate problem solving skills. Those were the ones who were able to get success through this model. So what we thought was that there are so many students who are so hardworking, they're so diligent. There needs to be a better way of imparting the learning to these folks, so that that whole preparation thing is not just a black box that you put in something, and then at the end of the test state you actually see that at the end of your GMAT journey, you are successful, right? So there has to be a better way of making things more more
Trackable.
obvious, to more trackable
Yeah,
for
I
people.
think
Yeah.
part of it, it also stems from our background. I think the context of this, our background is really important. So if you think about what Payal did, Payal actually worked for Honeywell Space Systems, and she, for her, the key challenge was, when you're building these missions that go into space, how do you ensure those components are mission ready? If you think about something going into space, there's just so many variables that you have to test against, and yet most of the missions are ready, right? I mean, spaceships, when they go up, they don't explode. A couple of them do, but most don't. My background, I also worked for Honeywell, but in a completely different division, which was oil refineries. And an oil refinery, we have to really look for production readiness. And there are close to 1 million failure modes that exist there. And yet refineries actually exist. They are 7 sigmas. If you think about a flight, that's 6 sigma in terms of reliability. A refinery is a 7 sigma. Now, if you think about both these challenges, Payal truly did rocket science. Now, the GMAT's not rocket science, yet 95% of people fail. right? I mean, a
And without knowing
730
why is it that they're failing.
without knowing
Yeah.
why, and a majority of these 95% put in the effort. It's like, why is it that rocket science doesn't have these many failures, and GMAT preparation does? And that's kind of where the context I was there was, because hey, how do people study? Study, then practice, then take mock tests and hopefully hope to succeed. There's got to be a better way to do this, given what we know about how processes work, and that's kind of where we brought our what I say precision mindset in that ways into the test prep space. So in many ways, the fact that we didn't belong to the space added up to being an
Oh, yeah.
advantage there.
That
So
was our strength because we were
that was
not
that
really.
practically
Yeah.
turned out to be our strength. In fact, a lot of what we learned in our respective businesses at Honeywell, we applied that over here.
Yeah.
That is so amazing, because I guess there is value to cross-disciplinary learning, right? Sometimes, you just have an eye for things which somebody wouldn't have. They would just have some blind spots because you're just coming from such a different background. So that's very interesting. Rajat and Payal, you've created this amazing, successful company. What does it take, as you stand, here today? What do you think it takes to really build a successful business?
I think both of us will have different things, different answers to it, but
It takes a good co-founder, and we'll also delve into that. How you found your co-founder. But yeah, would love to hear your thoughts.
so I have to think if I can remember this. So one thing that I learned from Honeywell was the biggest learning is um, uh, there's this. We had a VP of marketing at that point. Her name was Rhonda, Germany. She told me, and you can look her up. I don't know if she's still the VP. She said, and this is something, Ritik, I don't think you learn this with this precision even at B schools. This is a segment is a set of customers with the same needs who assign a similar priority to those needs, who have a similar willingness to pay, and for those, your cost to serve is very, very similar. All those four conditions should be met. And if you have and if you can define a segment like this, then you can build a solution that's superior to the next best alternative for this. And it's a very technical definition, and it just, for us to define that rigor of segmentation, I mean, that takes days for us to really come up with I'd say a spreadsheet that's probably 6 by 10. 60 cells filling out is about a week. But once you have that, you have a clear segment to which you can deliver value. So the first thing you need is a definition of a segment to which you believe you can deliver value that's superior than what is currently being delivered. Don't worry about the cost. Don't worry about anything. Just to really say, can I deliver superior value to that segment? And again, I can talk about a product business. So this is primarily a product and a solution business to that segment over here. So define that customer segment. I actually wrote those things down. But the second thing is prove that you can deliver value. So the first thing is unmet need. The second is you can deliver value. So prove to it. So I think the piece where Payal can talk about this is when we built our first SC course. It took us a year and a half before we launched our first SC course. So the first iteration of that, we launched it. We tested it out with people. We didn't deliver enough value, and we scrapped all of it. I mean, remember this. There's a set of 3 people working on it with practically zero funding. Payal wasn't getting a salary, and it's very tempted. You're tempted to really just say, hey, I've built.
Can I
something.
monetize this? No, can I monetize
Can I
this? Can I
monetize
at
it?
least
I can
get
make some money.
some money out of it? Yeah.
Yes.
But
we
I still
said no.
remember,
There isn't
Rajat. I still remember, Rajat, where I was standing when both of us took that decision that no, this product needs to be scratched, and it was a pretty long discussion, and we're like, no, I mean, yes, I've spent a year working on it, but it's the right thing to do is scrap that. But don't worry about the sunk cost. That's a sunk cost. That's okay.
It's sunk anyway.
Right? So yeah, it's sunk anyway.
It's
so
sunk
let's
anyway.
not try to monetize
So don't worry about that thing, right? But you've got to have those metrics upfront on that segment. What value are you delivering? And the beauty of GMAT as a test is you can take the test anytime. So that score improvement is very trackable, and that value is very trackable, and that's why we love the GMAT as a business. The second thing is, so you have to deliver value. And I think one of the worst ways of delivering value is copying something that already exists in that space. Why? Because if you copy an incumbent, that guy is always going to deliver superior value than you. That's the reason why he's an incumbent, right? So you have to focus on doing things differently. Because And that should be very natural anyway, because that's why that there's an unmet need that exists,
Mm-hmm.
right? If the incumbent ways work, there won't be an unmet need to begin with. So that's something that's really important, and you will take criticism for it. So if you go to beat the GMAT, look at the eGMAT tag from 2010, you'd see us criticized left and right by people such as Ron Purewal and other folks over there.
Us
Like
being
they take
criticized,
a
right?
really
That's
close
what, yeah.
approach.
Us being criticized. Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
you'd see us being criticized by them, and that's okay. Take that criticism. Why? Because you know the segment you're aiming for. You know how you're going to deliver value. The third thing, I think this is another thing that I learned at Babson, which is entrepreneurship is equal to positive cash flow. So make sure your unit economies work.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you want to sell your product, go through channels where the unit economies work. Go through channels where the unit don't reject channels where they don't work. I mean, one of the classic things is even today, you don't see a phone number on our website. Why? It's not because we don't want to talk to you, but essentially we don't want. I mean, this is unit. We can't. We started selling our first product for $39. Just these unit economies didn't work if we actually offered a phone number. Now we provide excellent service. We provide way better service than anyone else in the industry can dream to. But if you just put a phone number out there, every Tom, Dick, and Harry would be calling us. We want to serve our customers, not other people. So that's really, really important. Yeah, and then I think the last piece, which probably is the most important piece, which we didn't get right early on, a lot of it is hire the right kind of people.
Oh, yeah.
Is-
That's the biggest advice that I would offer to any entrepreneur there. Spend the effort in hiring the right folks, people who are skilled enough, people who share your vision. I think sharing the vision part is really, really critical, and having the right mindset and the culture. Those two are very important. And we learned it the hard way. I mean, that's one of the biggest regrets that we have. But yes, but now I think we've learned that.
I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah.
We learned it the hard way. I would say that, but we were also very fortunate at that point. We
Mm-hmm.
hired a bunch of really good people who shared that vision
Mm-hmm.
early on, and the value of this is because, especially if you are a self-funded company such as ourselves, you will never have enough money to pay them
Mm-hmm.
early on, and so unless and until they share the vision, they won't put their heart and soul into it. And I mean, people such as Shraddha, for example. I mean, I don't feel we pay her enough. We never paid her enough, but that's where she believed in us, and offer them equity, and if they believe in you, they will take that equity. And
Because
and
then it
and,
will
and
be in their best interest to make the company grow,
yeah,
right? So I
yes. So
think
I
it's, yeah.
think
Mhm.
those are four things that I would say.
And I would say, to summarize all of this, you have to stay true to your mission statement, to
Yes.
what your vision is. It's very, very tempting to get digressed. You'll actually see, oh, I can do this, I can do that, but then you always have to think about the segment that you're servicing, and which is why setting up that vision. What is it? What customer segment are you focusing on? That's very important. Continuously ask your question:
I think
is
just to
this going to
clarify, at
be? Yeah.
every stage you have to define the customer segment. That may change as
Yes.
you go from one stage to the other,
Exactly.
but for
Yeah.
every stage, have that customer segment to be very clear. And I think that
Yeah.
probably answers your question. I'm using a lot of MBA terms. What's the value of an MBA? So
Yeah.
it's extremely valuable.
And see,
That
all of this is very logical. It's not rocket science, but it's just the MBA actually gives you all those frameworks so that you have that mindset to think about those and apply those
and the
in
confidence
the
to tell
real
you
life.
this is
Yes,
right. I
yeah.
mean, because
Hmm.
I have seen that happen in those case studies.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So from what you're saying, it seems that your customer segment, like you said, were these hardworking students who, for whatever reason, are not able to crack the GMAT, and somewhat you were also targeting the non-native speakers because you had seen that firsthand as a problem. Now you are operating in a really interesting industry, right? Somewhat ed tech, which is a growing sector today. There is so much, money from venture capitalists, etc., flowing into this segment. You've created a very successful business, targeting a very, very niche customer segment. But what from here? Do you see yourself expanding into other areas? Like you said, there's always the temptation of doing that, but we're standing in a different place from where you were many years back when you were starting eGMAT. You've kind of done the whole drill and seen what it takes. So do you plan to expand to other areas outside of eGMAT?
So I think I'd start this with the piece where, and this is kind of the other piece with a lot of entrepreneurs that you would see, um, which is that, you talk about edtech as a growing sector. Frankly, growing sector is, as an entrepreneur, you should never be worried about. I mean, just I'll take an example of Tesla, right? Car industry, the most mature industry in the world, right? Uh, Benz created the ICU in 1870. Um, Yet he said, "Hey, I can deliver value in this segment," and Musk actually went into that industry where no one was. So again, it's all about value. The growth piece is primarily about investment coming into that sector in that regards. But if you're delivering value, you'll always get customers. So when we think about, and this is actually a discussion I was having with one of our board members, is like, hey, uh, you the pandemic has pushed the edtech sector, and so that growth is going to go away because the pandemic is ending. It's like, but we don't care about the pandemic. We were growing. We were always taking market share away from the competitors. And so for us, it's not because the GMAT market as such hasn't been growing. It actually has shrunk. So 2012, there are about 240,000 people who took the GMAT. 2018, there are about 200,000, I think 190,000 people who took the GMAT. Yet, from a customer count standpoint, we grew about 12x during that time. So it's so for growth for you is about providing a superior value. Now, of course, if the sector by itself is growing, then you will also get that additional
Push.
push or bias or what with regards to growth. But I think the sector part is not there. Now, regarding what's next for eGMAT, I think Payal, you want to talk about the vision and then what's next.
So the vision for eGMAT is to offer for diligent students, offer a platform that is better than a private tutor. That is what
That
we
vision
are
has
aiming
changed
to
now
now.
since for the last
Yes.
since the last 2 years or so.
Yeah, so from classroom course, so we've already proven that we are way better than the classroom course. We are way better than a typical private tutor, an average private tutor. Now what our goal is to become better than the best of the private tutors that exist in the who exist in the industry. So that's what the vision is for eGMAT for the next a year or so, and then we are going to set the next set of vision the next vision when
Yeah.
we
So
get
for
to that.
us, the key really is to build that platform that offers such good value in terms of score improvement, and this has very trackable values. And this is where, I mean, Ritika, if you go on the website today, what you would really see is how many 700 plus scores that we've delivered today, and we started investing in this vision in early 2019, and we actually launched two major projects in 2020. So it was a year and a half of investment before we launched those projects. And just in the first half of 2021, first 6 months, we have delivered more 700 plus scores than we did in all of 2020. So that's comparing us to us. And if you compare us to the average GMAT Club partner, that's about 10 times as many 700 plus scores as the average GMAT Club partner has delivered in the first 6 months. But still, there's a lot more that's yet we see a lot more headroom for improvement over there.
That is very remarkable, Payal and Rajat. So, congratulations on, of course, building this amazing business and constantly pushing yourself to innovate and keep doing better. One of the things which I felt like really sets eGMAT apart when I was using the platform, because I was a customer, kind of looking at different options available in the market, and I thought the tech element of eGMAT really stood out. So we know that eGMAT, of course, invests a lot in technology. So how does eGMAT innovate and prioritize the technology investments?
Pal, you want to take that, or do you want me to take that?
You take that, I'll add.
Yeah. So I think you're going to probably be sick of this segments again. So think about it this way. I think it's all starting with that vision, right? So our vision is to be more effective than a private tutor for diligent students. So the first thing is when people come on our platform, we have to figure out who are diligent students. Out of them, how many are successful and how many are not successful, right? So even though we deliver 10x of success today, there's still a segment of people who are diligent and yet are not successful. So when it comes to prioritizing technology investments, we kind of tackle segment by segment by segment. So within the diligent students, we have sub-segments over here. and then we invest and really kind of get that next segment to be more successful.
Yeah.
And again, remember, I'm just trying to put it in very simplified terms. But even within the subsegments, we have a success rate. So, for example, we launched our new Quant course, but even with the old Quant course, we had a lot of success, but not as much of a success as our verbal courses did. But yeah, so how do you prioritize investments? Payal can actually give some examples of how we looked at certain segments and how we prioritize those investments.
Um, right. So for Quant, for example, so we actually created this course wherein you anybody regardless of your starting level will have the diagnostics to basically figure out as to where is it that they need, what is it that they need to focus on. So again, we essentially by the design of the course itself, we were able to say that, okay, regardless of your starting level, this is how you're going to go through the course. So that need was actually met with the Quant
So
2.0
so this
course.
was a
And
segment where people really said, I'm at a Q45, I want to get to a Q50. I have 40 hours. Help me succeed. How do you do that? So we had to create, and a lot of our students are like that because, given coming from the non-native, but yet we also had a segment which was starting at a Q30 who wanted to succeed. So how do you build a product for them? And this is where Payal took that challenge and she actually came up with this course architecture where the Quant 2.0 product is not one course, it's actually close to 1,500 different courses. And depending on who you are, you will always go through the right learning path and you will be able to track your learning right while you're doing this. So if you're studying even odd, you'll be able to see within, I think it's about 8 hours, have you learned even odd enough to get to a Q, equivalent to a Q49 level, just in the context of even odd, just in the context of primes, just in the context of divisibility and remainders. You'd be able to do that, regardless of you may be starting at a 30th percentile in even odd or a 70th percentile. Both of them would be equalized. So that's one way in which we built this new Quant course, which I think was close to 15 months to end, but yeah, 159 months or so of effort. Another thing was we felt that there were these people who were getting to that, who started at a 550, got to a 680, weren't able to get to a 720 from our platform. So like, how do you figure out? And for this, we first started what we call as a mentorship program that was early last year. I don't know, Ritika, were you part of the mentorship
I was
program?
a part of the mentorship.
Yes. So that was an R&D investment. So you didn't pay a single penny for that mentorship program. On every student, we spent close to about $1,200 on that mentorship program. That was our R&D money that we spent. And the learnings from there was, how do you get people to improve? And a lot of those inputs went into Scholarium 2.0, where we help people create those hyper-specific personalized plans. Because part of that mentorship was towards the end, we diagnose your weaknesses. We kind of really tell you, hey, focus on these areas. This is where the improvement will come from. And this is where you're already good. So how do you define those areas at scale for 100,000 people is where Scholarium 2.0 as an investment came from. So it's all about defining segments and then creating solutions or executing solutions for those segments while being consistent with the learning architecture that you already have.
Amazing. This is a masterclass in entrepreneurship. So I'm very excited that I'm getting this opportunity to speak to both of you live here. Um, what would you say has been the biggest success for eGMAT, from product and services point of view, both biggest success and biggest failure?
Okay, Payal, successes.
Biggest success, I would say, starting from sentence correction course, right from our inception. That was our truly the biggest success in our early years. Then I would say our Scholaranium product that took us that took cementing stage 2 of learning to a whole another level. Then I would say our mock tests. I mean, we spent thousands of hours researching about 800 to 1,000 ESRs, enhanced score reports from the GMAT, to figure out what is it that, how is it that we can actually design our Sigma X mocks. So that's the third piece. The fourth piece I would say is our services, our last mile push program, that really gives us those insights into
Yeah, I
what
think that's
does it
something
take
that
for.
Ritika doesn't know about the last mile push program. Yes. So it was the
Yeah.
evolution of mentorship actually into into this.
That was taking mentorship to so taking it to more number of students, and then we took the learnings from our last mile push program, and we brought those learnings into our Scholaranium 2.0 product, so that we can offer those learnings at scale to more and more students, because that's what we believe in. We do our experiments, we take the learnings from those, and then we essentially bring those to more and more students. So, and then Quant 2.0 course, yes. How
Yeah,
could
I
I
was gonna say
forget
this is
that?
that's
Yes.
for me.
That's been my.
When I look at the success and the velocity of success,
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah, a lot of people knows about our verbal courses. What they don't know about our quant courses, that in the last 3 months, we have delivered more Q49 and higher scores, or actually at about 2.5 times as many Q49 or higher scores than anyone else. I mean, TTB is known for quant. We've delivered 2.5 times as many Q49 or higher. I mean, and we've been launching Quant 2.0 since what, December of last year or January
Hmm.
of this year. So
Yeah.
this, we were, even with half of that launched by March, that still started delivering that kind of success. So for us, that was big.
Yeah. So my
One
team
thing that
knows
I would really say,
that
talk about,
SC, yeah,
yeah, you
that SC
talk
is
about,
my first love, but then Quant 2.0 has actually overtaken that. So,
yes. Well, I think with every success there's a hidden failure, is what I will
mhm.
say, in
Yeah.
terms of just and from failures I'll talk about the product, and then I think a couple of other things. So SC, think about it, right? First version of SC, failure. We scrapped it out. And a lot of people don't know this. Now, people know Scholarinium. We launched Scholarinium in 2015, and that was a huge success. By the way, it's one of the first products that, just we gave it out to people, and it organically became successful.
Hmm.
We didn't have a Scholarinium page on our website for the longest amount of time. Um, but what people don't know is that before Scholarinium, we had a product called eScholar, and which was there on our platform for 3 months, and this that product had questions that weren't curated by our experts. We said, and this is one of those things where we said, don't believe in the industry hype. 2014 was where a lot of the outsourcing hype was there. So we outsourced some content creation, and we created this product called eScholar along with us. And for 3 months, we didn't see success. I mean, people just didn't use it. So we went back to our students and said, what happened? And they said, we don't like the questions. So we scrapped that product. That's why you don't even hear about it. And essentially, we Pyle and I sat down, and I still remember it was December of 2015 when we sat down to we actually had to
Hmm.
travel that month. We sat down to create all questions that we had to. Shraddha was there with us, and in 1 month we kind of hashed out all the questions. Shantanu at that time was
Hmm.
creating the technology platform for Scholaranium. So all of these successes have failures built in. Now, Quant 2.0, the product that we're talking about, the algebra course was completely scrapped, the first version of it. I mean, even though we've
Hmm.
created so many products, so it was the third course that you were creating in number
Hmm.
properties,
Third course,
geometry, and
number
then
properties,
algebra.
geometry, and then algebra. Yeah. So we
Yeah, and
scrapped
we
the first
launched it,
version
and
of that.
again,
Yeah.
the numbers didn't. We track everything in our platform. The numbers didn't add up. We scrapped all of it, redid it. There. Similarly, Quant Basics is a course
Quant
that we
basics.
introduced.
Hmm.
We
We
scrapped
scrapped
all
it
of
two
it.
times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
two
Not
times.
just one time, two times. Yeah. Yeah.
So each success has failures embedded in them, and has learnings embedded in them.
And that's very
Right.
important. And I think that's the failure, I believe, is a lot more important than success, because
Oh,
without failures, you
really,
will
really
not be
important.
successful, because you won't learn. And that's where I think iteration is so very important, and not getting deterred, having that confidence in yourself that you can do it. You have the skill set to do it. That's very, very important. So,
This
Uh,
is yes. Go on. Sorry, Rajat.
yeah, the other piece, I think, in terms of failures, I think so. Those are product led, but in terms of
mhm.
hiring failures, we've had quite a few. I think one of the things I would like to believe we've gotten better at is hiring people, and so yeah, I think that we've had a lot of hiring related failures early on.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. So that is a very, very important thing, that founders have to spend the time in hiring, right?
yes,
So it's very
as
important that
yeah, there's one
it should
advice I'll
not
give
be an
you is,
extra thing. Yeah, it should not
yeah,
be an
don't
extra thing that
consider
you do.
hiring to
Yeah,
be an overhead. It's a
yeah,
core.
yeah.
It's a core effort. You've even if you there are times when we've spent 50% of our week evaluating people, and when we are not certain, we would create additional assessments for them to really say before we hire them. If that's, and sometimes we do custom assessments,
Hmm.
but that's worth it if you're getting a right person, because you might spend 12 hours assessing a person, but that you'd be spending 1,000 hours with that person later on. you want to
And
make
that
sure you're
holds
getting the
true for the other person as well. The person who's joining you, who's actually trusting you with his or her career, that person needs to know that he or she is joining the right companies. And our assessments are a way to figure out what kind of journey would that person have with us. So it works both ways. But yes, hiring is super 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 duper important. So,
That is quite remarkable. I think from all kind of serial entrepreneurs, what you do here is this, to have the flexibility to experiment, right? And I think
mhm,
that's what I take away from this conversation, that you have a vision and you have a customer segment in mind, but then you're not scared to improvise, innovate, experiment, change the path as required, and be really
mhm.
agile. So that's quite amazing. What then, according to you, has been the best part about being an entrepreneur, and what's been the worst part about being an entrepreneur?
Hmm.
The
The
best
best part's
part,
very
I would
easy.
say, is
The
owning the
best part's very
success.
easy to answer,
Yes.
and the worst part's a bit more challenging. But yes, let's go on.
The best part is really you own the success. You put in the effort and you see out the door as to what the output is, and it's you who owns the success. I would say the worst part is that you own the failures too. Everything comes down to you, right? If there's a failure, whether you were directly or indirectly involved in that, it's ultimately you, because it happened under your watch, right? So I think it's that's you own everything, frankly. That's the best and the worst of it. The worst part, I would say, is the personal sacrifices. That's what I would say. There's a lot of you see your fellow mates who are quote unquote enjoying lives, right? So
Friends.
that's friends, right? And then
Yes.
you're like, okay, I could have been doing that. There are those moments wherein you're not in you always enjoy this journey, but there are those times wherein you get that comparison thing comes about, that okay, our friends are having fun on the weekends, they're going on these trips and all that stuff, but here we are creating questions because we did that misstep of launching that product, and that wasn't received. So yeah, but at that point in time, it's that belief in yourself, is that vision that you have, that pulls you out from that hole, and again, and that's where the confidence in what you're doing comes up, is very very important. So I think those personal hardships
Yeah,
is
so
what I
I
would
think
say.
when you ask Pyron, it'd be different things slightly. For me, the best part of being an entrepreneur, and I think had you asked me 5 years ago, the answer would have been different. Today, the best part is when I see the people who work with me and they deliver these amazing things, and that just makes me so happy. And whether it's our design team, or that's delivered this amazing design on Scholar Name 2.0, whether it's someone like Shantanu or Abhi, who part of our tech team, and 2 years ago, for example, the video files that you went through, right? I didn't think we could actually extract data from it. I thought it was like a $1 million R&D project to be able to figure out a technology to extract data. And Shantanu and Abhi kind of said, no, there's a way we can do it, and they implemented this in about 6 months. So to go from that piece where you as an entrepreneur thought something's not possible, to an employee being able to prove that to you, I think for me that is huge over there. And the reason I'm saying that now that's the case is because 5 years ago it would have been customer
Hmm.
success, but I've had so many of those customer success stories. But this is what amazes me
Hmm.
now.
Yeah.
um, I think the worst part of it for me is I actually I think the impact on health early on, that is there.
Hmm.
And again, that's for me. Sacrifices have never been an issue. So because that's kind of how I have been. So I think that's where there are individuals that who do this, who are very different in that way. But I mean, it is difficult. Why? Because your friends, your family members are. I mean, first 4 years of our existence, we actually didn't take a single vacation. Our family was taking vacations, for example, focusing completely on the business. But that's okay. The beauty of this is it's hard early on. The first 2 years are going to be hard because at that time you've not seen the reward. But once you know the reward, then frankly investing in this becomes a regular activity, because okay, I'm making those sacrifices now, but I'm going to see the reward later on.
Yeah, Rajat, so I do see your point. Rewards do come, but I don't want to make seem like as if just the first 2 years are difficult. I think throughout the journey, you have to
But the
keep
decision making becomes
pulling.
easier later on as well. I think
Decision
the
making
first two
becomes,
years, just making,
yes,
not doing that is very, very difficult because you've not seen the outcome. This might all go in waste.
right. Mhm.
Yeah, so that's the most challenging piece. It's like workout. The first 15 minutes are the most challenging ones. Once you go in and get them with the first 15 minutes, and it's a rhythm then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I I think, when you see kind of the fruits of your hard work, that adds to the motivation, right? To continue
Mhm.
doing what you're doing, to kind of bet on yourself a little more, to gain that extra confidence. So one of the things, Rajat and Payal, you said, you mentioned that your vision for eGMAT is to offer a solution that is better than that offered by a private tutor, right? So, are there any areas where you think eGMAT is already more effective than a private tutor? And along the same lines, then, are there areas where you think eGMAT needs to catch up?
So eGMAT is so again, I would say we are better than an average private tutor, right? In all regards. So the comparison that we would present now would be really against with the best of the private tutors. So there are certain things that we are already doing better than the best of the private tutors. The first one is building your study plan. How is it that you, based on your strengths and weaknesses, what is it that you should be focusing on? How many hours is it that you should be focusing on? So building those, that's building the study plans. Tracking your progress. When you're working with a private tutor, you'll probably spend what, 20-30 hours with that. But with us, you every 15 minutes that you spend on the platform, you get feedback, right? So just in the sentence correction course, you're going to get 100 points of feedback. So that tracking your progress, and that's so very important when for a working individual, because again, he or she is spending time, taking that time out from the personal commitments, right? And he's investing that time. So it's very important that
And
that
correcting that progress right then and there.
right, exactly. And knowing as to whether I'm headed in the right direction or not is very important. So that's the second piece. The third piece is those, when you get to that 680 level, when you've gotten to that 70th percentile, what is that extra thing that you need to do? What are those three things that you need to do in order to get to that 720, 740? So creating those hyper specific study plans is something that we believe we do better than the best of the private tutors. Why? Because we have the data, right? We have the data, we have the technology, we have the content that helps us do that. Now, the things that we still need to work on, and we are already working on it, is that because a human being is not present when the person is facing challenges with learning a particular concept, or when he or she is not able to apply a certain skill to solve the question, when that person needs a little bit of tweak in the way that person has to think about, that's where the best of the private tutors can actually get in right there and provide that support. It's not that we can't provide that support, we can, but there we need to put a human being, and that's not something that's something which we need to enable to be done at scale using
Oh, that's something
technology.
that Pal is doing experiments on right now, is what I
Yes,
will
in
say.
fact, I have a list open right here for the students who will be hearing from me shortly today. Yes. Yeah. So
Yeah, I think the one big piece where I think a private tutor does better, and again, which is not a segment, is if you're not a diligent student,
mm,
right? So I mean, for example, if you don't come on the platform for 4 days, we can send you an email, but we're not going to give you a call and say, "Man, come study. What the hell are you doing?" But a private
yeah.
tutor, if you've taken 10 hours of learning from him, he would really say, "Hey, we were supposed to do a class. What's going on?" And
Right.
I think that's where we define our segment to be, for a diligent student. I mean, that's something we assume that you're going to put in the effort, and that's kind of who this company is for. And so yeah, so those are the areas. And I think, just in terms of what Pyle talked about with regards to dynamically adapting, um, to the learning piece over there. um, so one thing that a lot of people don't kind of recognize is the SC course, for example, is in its third generation, and these are improvements that we do. Now the SC course has about 90 activities over there, and we monitor every activity for every segment of student, and we really make sure that 90% of the students, when they go through the activity diligently, excel. If they don't excel, we actually go fix that activity. And that's one of those things. If you think about, we have about 8 full-time SMEs, and you think, hey, they're not taking classes. What do? They are doing these iterative improvements, because we capture every data for every student. In fact, for example, when you go through the verb ing modifiers file, you actually send about 50 data points without even knowing to our to basically our database, and those are being processed, and then they are being converted into metrics, and based on those metrics that's kind of what's consumed by our SMEs.
Wow, this is so remarkable to think that behind this, very simple looking, GMAT exam is just so much, so much technology, data analytics, and so much hard work that goes into it. This is such an inspiring story, Rajat and Payal. But one thing which I have been very curious to hear, as an entrepreneur, one of the things that an important decision that you have to make is about the team that you work with, right? And you've kind of emphasized on hiring the right people. But even, I guess, more important than that, an almost irreversible decision is your co-founder. So both of you seem to work in great synchronization with each other. So if you can tell a little bit about finding a great co-founder, and how did this happen between the two of you? How do you kind of bounce off things against each other? What are the pros and cons of
Yeah,
being
I,
married?
I I would let Payal answer that. I would say it's not just us two; it's also Abhi who's not here,
Yes, yes,
and
yeah.
and so I think all three of us. But Payal,
So we are three co-founders, Rajat, I, and Abhi, and all of us are in the same family. So Rajat and I are husband and wife, and Abhinav is our brother
which adds to the
is our
tension.
brother-in-law.
The
Which, oh
fact that you're
yes,
in the same family adds to the tension. It's
yes, yeah. So it's I wouldn't call it a family business because it started off as a family, but then we are proper non-family business, I would say. Um, it's so we've always gotten that question as to husband and wife working together, how do you guys work with each other? The thing is, we somehow both of us have that complementary skills that we can we have been able to work successfully with each other. So I think having complementary skill set is very important. I think if Rajat and I both had similar skill set, I think there may have been more chances of rift than the smooth working that we both have experienced. That's what I feel. Because, yeah. Um, how do we bounce ideas off of each other? I think
I,
just
I,
normal
I I think I
discussion.
want to just take that, and I think then this becomes a natural answer. So for
Yeah.
me, the answer is slightly different. For me, I think when you work with a co-founder, you have to have respect for that individual, because you will always uh,
Differences.
uh, uh, have
Disagreements.
clashes. I mean, in
Mhm.
any company, forget about a startup. In any company, you will always be short on resources, right?
Mhm.
And resources is not money. Money is the easiest resource. It's about people. And so when you think about so let's kind of talk about Abhi, because he's not here, and he brings in the tech mindset. And then a lot of our successful products, you think about it, it's Rajat and Payal. No, it's not us. It's Abhi, it's Shantanu, it's Abhishek. Those tech guys who are there on our team. So when we really say we want to build these four things, they come back to us and say, hey, these are the two things that we can do given the team that we have. These other two need to take a back seat. Okay. Now you want to do all four, but you've got to, because you respect them, because you trust their judgment better than yours, and because I believe I can do all four, but then I trust their judgment better than my judgment. So I would agree with what they really say. But if you don't have that respect for that individual, you won't agree, you would push that individual. So I think for me the biggest piece is having that respect and having that trust in the co-founders, to really say, hey, we are going to be that I know what value they bring. So it's not so much about, I mean, it's complementary skills. One thing that's true, I think Pyle probably,
Yeah.
but it's also the respect, what the respect for those skills, that's really important, in my
Mhm.
opinion. And the same thing happens with where certain things Pyle wants to communicate, and I take care of certain parts, and I have to explain it to Abhi and Payal as to why is it that we shouldn't do. And it's not at the same time just for co-founders. I mean, we're talking about the three co-founders, but we have an executive team within the company, and as well as leaders who actually come and tell us, hey Rajat, you are wrong, and here is data. So at eGMAT we have this philosophy: you can prove me wrong, and I think a lot of companies have this, to be very frank. You can prove me wrong if you can back it up with data, but otherwise it's going to be my word over or the person who's ranked higher. And so the thing that we do is everyone in the company um, actually has access to all the data. So even the lowest level employee knows how much money we made today because they can access it. It's just there. And so it gives them the data, which means it gives them the opportunity to prove that I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that actually increases our respect for them.
Yeah.
Wow, so that's, you're using data not only to empower your students and allow them to track progress and do better, but also using data to empower your team and employees for them to, be able to again progress, do better, and challenge you if required. I think all
Oh,
sides.
that's the only way we'll grow, right? I mean, we can't do everything. They have to make decisions. And how do they make decisions? It's based on data.
uh, no, this is amazing. Like I said, having been on the entrepreneur side of things, I think I could not have put this better myself, right? Having complementary skills, but also having respect and trust, for those you work with. So, some amazing insights. Thank you, Rajat and Payal. I would want to end this wonderful conversation with a final question to both of you. I'm of course in business school right now, and I think I'm at that place where, and I see that with a lot of friends and fellow classmates, where you're making important decisions about what are you going to do next after the MBA, right? And the conventional path is consulting, banking. Now you have some other industries which have opened up, venture capital. But many people harbor entrepreneurial dreams, but the trade-offs are very difficult to make, right? Because here you have a fixed salary, a great brand name, and on the other hand sometimes you have an idea, and there is a lot of doubt and uncertainty about whether that'll go anywhere. You have bills to pay and sometimes student loans to take care of. So you've of course built a multi-million dollar business, like the flyer for this event said, starting from lower than $15,000, you've scaled it to over 50.
10K, that's all we had, by the way. But
Yes.
yes.
And scaled it to 15 million and more. So what is your advice really to B school students, and we are going into recruitment season right now, so I would love your candid thoughts on people standing at this juncture.
So I'd say, as human, if you think about, let's not take us, let's take two of the two names that we know of who didn't go to B school, Zuckerberg and Gates, right? When you think about both of them dropped out of Harvard and started their own business. So that's what a lot of people know. But what a lot of people don't kind of focus on is the piece that even before Gates started Microsoft or Zuckerberg started Facebook, they'd done a bunch of other businesses, and they'd proven their value before that. So it's that piece that's very important. If you look at our journey, it's very similar. We went to the corporate sector. We actually became confident in our careers with regards to that, regardless of the place, we can deliver value. And we learned a lot from those experiences. I mean, eGMAT wouldn't have been what it is today had I just started it right after B school. The Honeywell experience was absolutely valuable because it gave us the belief that, hey, there has to be a better way to do this, given the challenges that we face and the products and the solutions that we deliver at Honeywell. And we do such a fantastic job. Why the hell can't we do that in the education space? So those consulting experiences that you're talking about, the VC experiences, are extremely valuable. Okay. So I tell people that you'd reach a point in your career where you'd say that, I don't have to worry about how I would feed myself, because I can always go back to those jobs that I had. And
Yeah.
in terms of my learning, I'm at that 70, 80% learning over there. Now, at that point, it's a decision for you as an individual, where you say, hey, I have this dream. If you should have a dream, by the way, for if you want to start if you want to start your own business. If you don't have a dream, then you shouldn't. I mean, maybe Satya Nadella is doing excellent work, right? Sundar Pichai is doing excellent work. They're making 1,000 times more money than we do. So there's no right or wrong over there. But if you have a burning dream to do something, then and when you reach that point, that's when you need to have that confidence in yourself to really say, I'm going to take a plunge, and this is a segment that I want to focus on. This is the value that I believe I can deliver, and then take a plunge and put your heart and soul into it. I think one thing that I discourage people to do is to really just say, I'm going to do this on the side and maybe see what
Mm.
works. No,
No,
you've
it
got to
doesn't
give
work
it
that way.
success, and that's very important. So go do that consulting piece, go work for that corporate world, but have those metrics in your mind to really say when to leave that job, when you have to, if you have that dream. So so and again, for many people, not starting a business is the right thing to do, and there's nothing wrong in that. It's just what you desire to do. For me, starting a business was a desire to begin with. Payal did not have that desire, but she supported me. She wanted me she wanted to make sure that if I had that desire, I could do it. So she supported my decision, and hence she said, okay, I'm going to stop working, and we're going to start executing on this.
Yeah. But I would say if you do take a plunge, go all in.
Go
That's
all in.
that's one thing that I would say. There should not be second thoughts about, oh, should I spend 6 months? Should I spend a year? No, go all in, have your metrics ready. And for that, I think confidence in in the team is super, super important. I mean, we were three of us who started. We believed in ourselves, and that's the reason why, despite those hardships early on, despite not getting any cash flow early on, we stayed true to our vision that no, we this is all in. I mean, we have to go all in over here.
I think those
So that's
metrics are
something.
really important. So just to really tell you, after a year and a half, we launched the SC course. Our metric was so many success stories and so many customers in the first 6 months. So it was about 200 customers in the first 6 months. We got our 200th customer on 31st December, 10:30 p.m. And hitting those metrics is really, really important. And even before that, I mean, on the product side, we had those metrics where we scrapped the SC course based on that. Those metrics help you make decisions. And frankly, a lot of people think entrepreneurs take risks. No, we reduce risk. If you have that risk reduction mindset, you will not feel risks. If you don't have those metrics, you'll actually feel the risk out there.
And we reduce risk by breaking the problem down,
Yes.
by simplifying the problem. So if you take one big problem, okay, creating a C course, that's a huge problem, right? But then if you break it down into smaller chunks, and if you have metrics all along there tracking whether you've solved one problem and moved on to the other problem, then that's how you actually
Yes.
minimize the risk. So yeah, you're absolutely right, Rajat. Minimization of risk is the
Yeah.
is the
We
right
as
thing here.
entrepreneurs don't take risks.
Yeah.
We are
Yeah.
on the job of minimizing risks and delivering value.
Amazing. We are coming to the end of this wonderful session. For everyone who's watching, who've been following Rajat and Payal, and had amazing experience with eGMAT, I think we should leave them with last few words on where will eGMAT be in the next 24 months.
We don't know. I think I can tell you where we'll be. It will be in the next 6 months. So for us, the vision part is very clear, and we do those experiments. For example, I said Pyle is actually starting with about 3 experiments now, and so in 3, we know what we want to achieve in the next 3 months and be better than a private tutor. And one thing that you'd really see is that the success rate will go up. It will double from what it is today. That part I think both of us can assure you. Uh,
Yeah.
what products will we have in the next 6 months, um, or next 24 months. We plan for 4 months.
Yeah.
That's it. And achieve that. and
And
and,
then we
and
have a team, and then we essentially listen to them, and then we decide, okay, where do we go next? Yeah.
so we will go into other. One thing I can tell you is once we prove that we are a bit more effective than a private tutor, we'll go into other tests, definitely. But when that would happen depends on how much we can improve the success. So
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you, Raja. Thank you, Payal. Like I said, this has been a little bit of a masterclass in entrepreneurship. I don't think I could have gotten such a good session on entrepreneurship even through some of my classes here at Columbia. So I really, really enjoyed speaking to both of you. Thank you for the wonderful work that you do. Thank you for your commitment towards the students and towards the customers. I, having been on the other side, can vouch for the absolutely brilliant quality of work and excellent service that eGMAT offers. And I'm excited to see what you do in the next 6 months and in the next 24 months and so on. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ritika, for
Thank
taking the pains to do this. I mean, it's been a pleasure being on the other side and
Yes.
answering questions. So that's and what this, I think, pushed us to do is to just kind of put our journey in perspective. So I think
Mhm.
had you not asked us to do this, you would not have done that. So yeah.
It's been really nice going down the memory lane and looking at our failures and successes there. Therefore, yeah, yeah, it's been really exciting. Yeah, thank you so much, Ritika, for
Thank
giving us
you.
this opportunity. I would say, yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.